For those who don't know, Jason Statham holds a very special place in my heart. The benjimovies channel has been around for quite a while, but most of the videos are privated and unavailable for anyone to just watch. Privating my videos was a decision that I thought about for a while, but once my video style changed, I really just wanted my entire YouTube channel to reflect that change. That change happened back in August of last year, and the very first movie that I covered in this new style was Meg 2: The French. If you're wondering why I said French, it's because I typed trench in my script and then it autocorrected. I don't know what to tell you, I went with it. Anyways, now that we're in 2024, I was looking ahead to see what movies I may potentially want to cover on the channel. And lo and behold, one of the very first films coming out this year was The Beekeeper, starring none other than Jason Statham. It was too perfect, the stars aligned, and this year gifted me the exact type of movie that I love talking about, and trust me, you are not going to want to miss this video because I truly think that we have one of just the most movies of all time. Oh boy, let's get into it. Conceptually, The Beekeeper is not much different than some other modern day action movies. I would most closely relate it to the 2021 action film Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk. That movie follows a retired assassin from a secret organization who's brought out of retirement to seek revenge on those who have wronged him. That's the general gist of this movie as well. In the case of Nobody, they don't tell us that much about the secret organization that Bob Odenkirk trained under, whereas in the case of this film, we know that they're called the Beekeepers. Why did they choose bees? I have no clue, maybe just for the one-liners. Like, legitimately making them bee related allowed them to have some really funny moments in the movie and just kind of embrace the ridiculousness. And I don't want to spoil all of the amazing one-liners, but here are just a couple to give you a taste of what this movie has to offer. To be or not to be. You mess with the hive, you get the hornets. And then, of course, as expected, the crowd lost it when Jason Statham's character said, "I'm a beekeeper." Anyways, going back to the premise of this movie, I'm usually all in for action movies like this. It typically gives more questions than answers, and I feel like that's kind of intentional. It gives you enough of an explanation to use as an excuse for the film to happen, but it's not like there's a ton of depth or backstory to our characters and some of the plot points that they bring up. There's a lot of good questions that you could ask that they just don't care to explain. A good one is, these beekeepers who are just trained killers, do they actually have to learn about bees and keeping bees? What benefit does that give them as an assassin? Like, they mention how a bee's hierarchy teaches us about society, but do you really need to learn how to actually farm bees to understand the concept of the hierarchy of bees? I don't even know if I'm making sense at this point, but I'm also not going to get too picky about it because that's not really the point of this movie. The point of this movie is to give the most ridiculous reasons to have crazy action scenes. Some action scenes involve our beloved beekeeper killing some greedy bastards, and others where he's murdering innocent police officers or military personnel. Does he really have good intentions? I don't really know, but it doesn't matter, cause he's the beekeeper. The action scenes are fairly fun, sometimes choppier than the Drake Passage. I know nothing about the Drake Passage, by the way. I was just looking up choppy C's so that I could throw it into this script, and that was one of the first things that came up, so I feel like I just had to put it in here. Anyways, especially when compared to some of Statham's recent action movies, such as Hobbs and Shaw or Wrath of Man, this just doesn't have the same level of choreography put into the action. Not to say that those are great movies, but they clearly had larger budgets and more effort put into the action scenes. Still, The Beekeeper maintains a good pace of action, and a lot of the violent moments are enjoyable if you're into hard R action movies. It doesn't go like insane with the violence, but it's still fun. It's also pretty funny as well. I expected it to be, but genuinely I just had a blast with the film. I feel like if you can just embrace the ridiculousness, you're gonna have a really good time with it. And it wasn't just the cheesy one-liners relating to bees, they also just allowed the R rating to flow and have the previously mentioned greedy bastards just be jerks, which made sense for their characters, but was also just enjoyable to watch either way. I also just couldn't make this video without mentioning the plot of this movie. It's kind of wild. Like, there are certain random plot points that they just drop onto you, like dropping soap in the shower. It's unexpected, sometimes slippery, but ultimately can lead to a good time.
What did he say?
Anyways, there are genuinely moments where they just drop story elements that I would have never seen coming from a mile away, and it makes the rest of the movie from that point on even more ridiculous and silly. And I think you could just really tell that all of these filmmakers understood what type of film they were making, they understood the assignment, and they embraced the craziness. Now that I've talked about the movie for a little bit, I do have a request for all of you. If you've seen the movie, then you know the way that it ends. And all I'm saying is, there is an argument to make that this movie is a prequel to the Meg films. I legitimately had to pull up the Meg in the car to see how that movie starts and introduces Jason Statham's character. And all I'm saying is, it is really easy to convince someone who doesn't know any better that they are connected films. So that's what I'm gonna start doing, and I think you should join in. Like, legit, it makes so much sense. This movie is about a retired assassin who gets pulled out of retirement to seek revenge on those who wronged him. He then retires again. So going into the Meg, why can't it make sense that Jason Statham's Meg character has this training and then decided to become a shark expert in his new life? I just think that makes like too much sense, and I will continue to spread this misinformation until the day I die. Plus bees, sharks, kind of makes sense. I don't know. It makes sense to me. Ultimately, The Beekeeper isn't going to blow you away. It's an action comedy like many before it. But is it a really fun time to get a group of friends together to just embrace the ridiculousness and repeat some of the one-liners after watching? Absolutely. And that's all it needs to be. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. That's all. Buzz along.